watching a president and a first lady is extraordinarily interesting situation. How have they changed? You say Hillary's numb now. And how have they, you know, we all watch presidents up close. And what's the toll on them?
They become paranoid. Paranoia. They think people are out to get them. This right-wing conspiracy stuff. The crime bill almost really brought everybody to their knees until they did something interesting. They called the cabinet together. The cabinet really was sort of upbeat. I mean, my speech at the cabinet meeting was, you know, the test in this town is not whether you get knocked down, but whether you get up, brush yourself off, and keep moving. Which was really the Clinton strategy in the campaign. Mm-hmm. And just to bring it back, I mean, this town's all about resilience and persistence and focus and, you know, keeping going. But it just sort of reinforced the kind of right-wing, there is a feeling in the White House that there is, and I don't know whether it's Carville or Begala or who's giving them the materials, but sitting on the desks of their staff, there's these materials on this right-wing conspiracy. My reaction to that is, so what? So what's new? So we got Father Coughlin, and in 1994.
Right. Yeah, well, that's a good perspective.
So I mean, you know, I'm on the radio talk shows all the time. That's what I'm going to do when I get out of this job. I'm going to have a radio talk show. I've had more fun.
And do they need somebody from your part of the political spectrum?
I know, but I love taking them on.
How is this paranoia manifested? How does it come up? Does it come up in conversation?
Feeling sorry for themselves.
Yeah, always. Do they talk
and they talk about it all the time.
Like, give us an example.
You know, that there really is a conspiracy out there to get us, that we don't have a chance. People don't understand how much good we've done. Our message isn't getting across because these people are beating us up.
The disappearance of her private life, all in the same year and a half, had made her a much more sober and sad person, much less believing and less idealistic in that she can do things. And as a result, as she's gotten more sad, she's gotten sharper at times. The opposite of that sadness is certain. I mean, she's always had a very caustic edge to her, but it's even gotten sharper, that edge. I mean, it's razor sharp now.
Taking out of people, just blowing up.
But verbally. And that's sad.
Does she do that in front of people?
Not in front of us, no. She has once or twice, like she did Jim Cooper in front of us. And then she instructed us to go and get him, basically.
What was that like?
We were in her office in the West Wing, and there were 7 or 8 of us around the table. And basically, I don't know what had happened. I guess she had a bad meeting with him or something. Something had gone wrong. And she just got this kind of evil look. And she said, we got to do something about this Cooper bill. We got to, basically kill it before it goes any farther. And Eller suggested that he fly down to Tennessee and plant some stories. And then we put a couple people on the radio down there from here to be up on the plan. And by the end of it, we had elevated Cooper into this huge thing. It was, a massive error at that point.
Very tough call for us because, I don't think it's useful to go around talking about it, but on the other hand, I don't think it's very smart either to stay so totally silent about it. So kind of strike the right balance so that you don't sound defensive or, whiny or any of that, which I don't feel. I mean, I understand. I think a lot of the insecurity. I mean, take a place like Washington. How many out-of-work loggers are there? Because all of a sudden we're not going to log because of the spotted owl. I mean, a whole way of life undermined for them. How many out-of-work fishermen because we're depleting the salmon in their rivers? I mean, I have a lot of sympathy. What I don't like is that it's just like Coughlin or it's like, any other demagogue. When you take that kind of insecurity, which you will find any time at the end of a historic era, like the end of the Cold War, and you whip it up, and you basically make policy or try to influence policy by frightening people, lying to people. And again, with all respect, when you've got a well-organized right-wing media operation, everything from, the talk radio, the radical right religious broadcasting, the Wall Street Journal editorial page, the Washington Times, which are advocacy journalists, and then you've got respectable mainline journalists, basically in a kind of either-or, even-handed mode, you don't have any counterbalance to this incredible 24-hour-a-day hate that is being spewed out. And, there's somewhere, if you read Limbaugh's transcripts, he's very clever. He's not as bald and blatant as this guy in Seattle, who, or the guy in, Detroit who calls my husband Caligula because he murders people because Falwell says so. That is like, I don't think we've ever had that kind. We've always had newspapers and broadsides taking on presidents and saying terrible things about them. You had Westbrook Pegler saying terrible things about Eleanor Roosevelt, but it wasn't pervasive. It did not penetrate into every corner 24 hours a day. And I think that's scary.
And if Seattle is not...
Well, I have been heckled, for years.
Sure.
That's not new, but usually it's, it's sort of pro forma and it's kind of within the bounds. There's a radio talk show host in Seattle who's a kind of, Limbaugh clone who for a week was just whipping people up against me. It was just relentless. All kinds of terrible things that he said. He set up his broadcasting booth down by the venue Saturday morning, and so he pulled a lot of people.
KVI radio in
Seattle. They, the thing that I guess scared me though is the look of the people that he pulled. They were men in their 20s, 30s, 40s. I had not seen faces like that since segregation battles in the 60s. They had such hatred on their faces. I've been often protested against by pro-life people, and I respect them. And usually it's, a couple of men who are in charge of a large group of women and children. And this was different. Qualitatively,